I work as a dispatcher for a small police department in a quiet suburban town. Nothing ever really happens here. Minor car accidents, occasional domestic disturbances, and sometimes kids pulling pranks. But one night, everything changed. It was around 2 a.m. when I got a call that made my stomach drop. The caller was frantic, her voice barely audible over the static. She said someone had broken into her house. She could hear them moving around, and they were getting closer to her bedroom. It sounded like she was trying to hide, and her breath was heavy with panic. I immediately dispatched a patrol car, trying to keep the caller calm. But just as I was about to end the call, she whispered something that made my blood run cold. "Officer, I think they know I'm on the phone. I think they know everything." I reassured her, telling her help was on the way, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. The line went quiet for a few moments, and then, just as the dispatcher on duty radioed to ask if I needed backup, the call dropped. I couldn't reach her again. My heart was pounding in my chest, and I told my supervisor what had happened. He ordered me to get all the available units to her house immediately. When the officers arrived at the scene, they found the front door open. It wasn't forced, but the house was eerily silent. They checked every room, but there was no sign of forced entry. The caller was gone, no signs of a struggle, and nothing appeared to be out of place, except for one strange thing. On her kitchen table, there was a note. It wasn't anything threatening, but it was incredibly detailed. It read, "I know you're scared. I know what you look like in your pajamas. I know your dog's name is Max, and I know you like to sleep with the TV on. I'll be watching." The officers scoured the area for hours, but there were no clues, no witnesses. No one saw anything unusual. It was as though she had vanished into thin air. Her phone was found in her house, but the battery was dead. Weeks went by, and the case grew cold. There were no leads, and the woman was never found. The strangest part, though, one of the officers who was on the scene that night, Officer Keller, seemed off. He had been part of the initial search, and he was the one to find the note on the kitchen table. But when I saw him a few days later at the precinct, he looked different. His face was pale, his eyes were wide, like he hadn't slept in days. When I asked him if he was okay, he gave me a strange look, like he knew something I didn't. A few weeks later, during a routine check of records, I found something disturbing. Officer Keller had been the one to take the woman's initial call. Not just that night, but every detail from her address to the description of her house seemed eerily familiar to him, almost like he knew exactly where she lived. He had asked her questions only someone who'd been to her house before would know. I brought it up to my supervisor, but he brushed it off as coincidence. But I couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. A month later, Officer Keller disappeared. No one knew where he went or why. His wife said he had left without warning, taking only a bag of clothes and his service weapon. The strange thing, his last patrol shift was the night the woman called. To this day, no one knows where Officer Keller went. His file was closed, and the case of the missing woman was quietly marked as unsolved. But I'll never forget what I found one morning while checking the security footage from the night of the call. Just before the woman's phone went dead, there was a figure in the background of her front door camera. Standing there, just outside the frame, was Officer Keller. He wasn't in uniform. He was just watching.